Hello, welcome to IDG Talks. My name is Anastasia Laurina, and today we have a special guest from Turkey, Melih Demirtas, former diplomat and researcher. Hello, welcome to IDG Talks.
Thank you, Ms. Laurina. Thank you for the invitation and this important event again, and very, very glad to see you.
Thank you very much. So I will start with a question. This week we observed a very important event which took place in Shusha city of Azerbaijan, 27th meeting of the Council of Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the Economic Cooperation Organization. And among the very important messages and statements made by the foreign minister of the countries and the address of the president of Ilham Aliyev, the future operation and opening of Zangezur corridor was among the priorities. I would like to refer to the sentences made by the Turkish foreign minister. He said that Zangezur corridor must be transformed for the benefit of all Economic Cooperation Organization members. I would like to start our discussion today with this particular issue, like how Zangezur corridor may change the geopolitical situation in the region and why this project is so important, not only for Azerbaijan and Armenia.
Thank you. Thank you again. It's an important issue, important topic, especially in the last months after the victorious movements, after or rather Azerbaijan's army's victorious terms. We can see that the other projects now on the table, which are social and humanitarian effects for all the people, as you said, for not only Azerbaijani and Armenian people, but for all the regional organizations and regional communities. We, as Turkey, always attach importance to these cooperation projects. Zangezur is historically and socially is on the table, but it is also seen a project which is not maybe the right word is not limited, but I will change it maybe with it is not so regional term, but it is also a very high worldwide term, because from Beijing to London, they said that this Zangezur project can have important prosperity term and humanitarian special cooperation terms through the channels of communication, through the channels, of course, commerce, and through the channels of new policy-making agendas. We have many states in the region, we know that, and the word, maybe multipolarity, is much more now discussed in the world. And through such projects, we can also see that this multipolar understanding, which is maybe also signing the importance of different countries. I mean, in the northern level, of course, we have an important partner of Russia. In the southern side, we have maybe with its 6,000 years, 7,000 years of history of Iran. In of course, very critical parts of the geography, we have our country, Turkey, and also Azerbaijan, with our brother and historical relations. Also, the other side, in the eastern parts of the Hazar, we can see that big communities of Turkic nations, and also the other countries till China, actually till Japan, we can say that. It is a big part. The political ideologists said that Eurasia, it has some, of course, different political connotation, but as a geography meaning, I cannot hesitate to use this word. Eurasia is an important combination of this cooperation atmosphere, I said. And Zangezur is a beginning. Maybe we expect to see it maybe 30 years before. It's a delayed project because of this negative legacy of the solution of the Soviet Union times. We all see that, unfortunately, the communities suffered. The communities, especially our brother country, Azerbaijan, with the attacks to its territorial integrity and any parts of also its economic integrity and prosperity. It is number one, maybe suffered nation, or Azerbaijan, but also the Armenian people, Armenian civilians. They also are, lacking of this opportunity, of this important commerce ideology. The ideology of commerce is maybe the ideology of humanity also, because if you do not exchange something, if you do not prosper while exchanging, it's not about money. You can exchange goods, you can exchange anything for your prosperity and for your good life. And as we maybe discussed in the last discussion in our channel, also valuable channel, the young generations and the new people, the new communities also waiting for this prosperity. And Zangezur, because of that, as Turkey, we also declared that can prosper many countries. It could be Iran too. It could be, of course, Azerbaijan, Armenia too, also our brother Turkey countries too, because of this idea of prosperity through the exchange of commerce.
Let me ask you an additional question about Russia. Some experts were telling that maybe Russia can be against this project because it will bypass Russian territory and go through Azerbaijan, Armenia, Turkey, and then to Europe. But what we see in the last months, even many officials in the Russian Federation are saying about the prosperities for these projects. They fully support that, and even recently they say that this project will benefit for the future, let's say, re-establishment of the relations between Armenia and Azerbaijan and peaceful development in the region of the South Caucasus. So, as you mentioned previously, other countries can benefit as well. But what is the interest of Russian Federation here, and how Russia can benefit from this project?
Yes, Russia is historically and maybe sociologically also a very efficient country in this region for maybe 400, 500 years. We can see the reality of Russian presence by starting, of course, or historical Ural region, Siberian region, Central Asian region, and then Caucasian region. We can see that Russian community always collaborated. Sometimes we have also many important wars, conflicts, but when we come today, when we come to the age of information sharing and to the age of maybe more human values, Russian rational decision makers can also see that this region needs something to reevaluate more. Of course, Armenian decision makers also reevaluating this. They have maybe different options of relations in the last decades. We can see that with the intensifying relations of these Western countries with Armenian, especially policymakers. Of course, diaspora is always there, but especially at the level of Yerevan government, we can see this intimate relations now more and more with the Armenian are best. This can be a rational explanation for many foreign policymakers, but I would like to minimize only to this rational decision making. Russia do not want a Western influence or Western infiltration to this region. Yes, this is an explanation, but also Russia do not maybe want to have this frozen conflict idea anymore in this region. The option of to choose maybe a moderate solution to devastating conflict of Ukraine, it is also on the agenda always in the Russian case. But we can say that in the Moscow, economic policymakers and especially these foreign policy experts see that this Armenian and Azerbaijani have this potential also with the rising influence of these Turkic countries and also the positive relations between Ankara and Moscow. We can say that we can come on the same level and we can talk on this. But again, these international influences, international agenda affect always diplomacy makers. Diplomacy makers and sometimes diplomats do like, to have some daily solutions. The middle size or long-term size solutions can sometimes frighten some diplomats or foreign policy experts. But especially in this era, which is so, evolving in very fast terms, we can say that diplomats are also thinking about these middle and long-term projects. And the Russians foreign policy experts can maybe include it in this area. And again, we can say that the Zangezur corridor, it's not again one polar. I mean, Russian polar dominance on influence area. We can see that the French, we can see that the American, even this Iran-Israeli high tensional atmosphere, all these multipolar senses are affecting now this such cooperative projects like Zangezur.
Well, another important player in the region is Iran. You mentioned in your first answer that Iran can also benefit from Zangezur corridor. And we know that since the end of the Second Karabakh War, Azerbaijan was offering Armenia to follow the trilateral statement signed in November 2020 and finally to come up with its own responsibility to open Zangezur corridor, as it was mentioned in the trilateral statement. Then after, there was an alternative initiative to have the Zangezur corridor on the territory of Iran. And just recently, we know that construction of a highway and railway via Iran to ensure the access to the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic has already started. Can we say that this is maybe the last opportunity for Armenia to join the project, and how the interest and position of Iran can also contribute to the future operation of the project in the region?
Yes, thank you. It's important also you mentioned this point, because Iran, as we know, that not today or not the last 30 years maybe. It has a long history of relations with the communities, with the historical communities of Armenia, with the historical communities, of course, of Turkic people. And Iran thinks maybe, as I said in the last question, that these middle or longer term plans always more than many other countries had done. I mean, Iran, maybe with its this statist, the longest tradition maybe in the region, have this option of using different maybe instruments. Some are unfortunately not so well known or very popular instruments, but we can also see that these last events in the Middle East, Iran and the other countries has really important high tension atmosphere. But it does not maybe want to see this high tension atmosphere in Caucasia, as far as I can see, because the northern Iran region and also the Azerbaijani and Armenian, also Turkish, this important circle, if we can maybe make it as a picture, is an important circle, which all these states has some historically and socially well-established structures. Even Armenia has its own rights, of course, territorially, I mean, historically and socially. It has the own rights. Of course, this is separated by the artificial and constructed lines of Soviet ideology. We all know that in this Zangezur or Nakhchivan and all this brotherly issue of brother Azerbaijan. But in apart or in separate of that, these countries has always think that this historical and social backgrounds affecting their decisions. Iran knows that. Iran has also its own economic and political problems, as we know, in the last 30, 40 years, after the Iranian Revolution and after all this changing in its social and political atmosphere. We can say that the new cooperation thinking and the new cooperative atmosphere, which is also nurtured by this multipolarity, is also positively maybe demanded by different circles of Iranian policymakers. I'm not a direct Iranian expert, but as far as I can see from the Russian and Iranian relations, the Russian foreign policymakers also, quote unquote, advise these things to Iranian counterparts, as I can see. And they say that, look, we are here. We are also thinking some rational decision understanding. There are some conflicts which are so frozen with 30 years, maybe 100 and 200 years frozen things. And now maybe we can also come together. And of course, we have different problems. I mean, for Russia, this Ukrainian crisis is so open. I mean, Iran now, as we can see in the Middle East, is so open. I mean, still, unfortunately, we see the very bad news coming from there still. But in the region, still so established by also Azerbaijani are very victorious terms and rational, I mean, brain and rational, I can say that decision thinking of Azerbaijani officials, we can see that this economic prosperity and cooperation now start. Because the first thing, which is the terroristic moves, and unfortunately Armenian community or Armenian illegal communities use these methods against especially, or rather Azerbaijan also against us, as you remember from our assassination of our diplomats. And also, we know these linkages are much more spelled always this 40 years of nightmare of this terror organization and linkage with this Armenian terror organizations. We know that Armenia can use such actions, but now Azerbaijan has this opportunity to maybe suppress these terroristic moves with some victorious military clever decisions. And now the time has come for soft or humanitarian actions, which can benefit really also our real historical neighbor Iran. And it must not maybe afraid from this Armenian prosperity because of maybe daily grievances of Iranian maybe ideologues or Iranian ideological rivalries. No, it must think about midterm and long-term plans, as it did maybe in the very long term of history.
Can we say that the opening of Zangezur corridor can become the first step in the normalization of the relations between Armenia and Turkey? As President of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan stated, if Armenia fulfills its promises, in particular about the opening of the Zangezur corridor, Turkey is ready to develop relations step by step.
Yes, it's not a secret. It's not a hidden agenda of Turkey. Turkey always attacks importance for the prosperity of people. It's not depending on their racial, it's not depending on their religious bindings. It is only dependent that they are people, they are humans, they are our neighbors. And if they are innocent, if they are really also respecting the rights of other countries, I mean, the rights of territorial integrity of Azerbaijan, and if they have the right to decide independently, I mean, free from, for example, the influence of a Western country. I don't want to spell a Western country, but free from this influence of a big country. If Armenian decision makers and people can really decide free from any external pressures and come together with also Mr. Pashinyan and the other foreign policy makers sometimes spell that. I think also Mr. Pashinyan is also a different leader. He can sometimes declare that Armenia can real independent country, but in action, maybe it is not so very good implemented. But really, as Mr. Pashinyan also sometimes spelled that, also his bureaucrats, Azerbaijani and Armenian people first come together free from any external pressures from West, from East, anyway. So they must really come and discuss on this issue more and more. Yeah, still we have some problems, ideological problems, but to come together in moderate senses, it's only the beginning, I think.
And my final question, Armenia's main argument is terminology. Zangezur corridor is somehow scares the Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan. So how can this problem be solved also?
The words are important. I mean, as a political, junior political scientist or area expert, I also sometimes write this in my articles and book chapters that this is the time of maybe words. Some postmodern or the other schools of international relations say that the words are important. Realists or the traditional foreign policy experts always say that no, we can talk always about power, thinking, interest, and etc. But no, the words, spellings, and everything becomes important for nations in this time, especially in this time of information sharing. And I want to call this postmodern times with this internet's rising effect on the younger generations, also decision makers. Every decision maker now have a Twitter webpage, X with the new name, or Facebook, or I think WeContact, yes, in the region of Eurasia, it's so popular. But these web pages has also showing that the words or what you are sharing becomes so important politically and socially. Because of this, Armenia, with its political agenda, wants maybe change this terminology in the first step, because not maybe losing the political support from its own people, because every democracy or every election country has this fear to lose this popular support from its own people. Because of this terminology, maybe we also must come together and we can share maybe a document which is maybe a two terminology document. It can be. I mean, we have some diplomatic solutions in the history for that. But the important idea must not change here. The prosperity again, and as in the first question we have said, the people must prosper through commerce, through changing, but not through conflict and through bombs. I would like to say that these bombs and this hard power thinking, it is now surrounding our region, and I'm really sorry to see that. In the last terms, we just talk about this Caucasian really high atmosphere. Now we see that in our maybe southern parts of Turkey, in the Middle Eastern region, and innocent civilian people don't deserve this. Neither Israeli, neither Palestinian, of course, neither Azerbaijan or Armenian people. The civilian people must this exchange ideology, which is maybe so well indicated in Zangezur Corridor project.
Well, I thank you. Thank you very much for joining IZ Talks. It was a real pleasure to know your opinion.
Thank you, Ms. Valeria. It's also very
thank you.
nice. Thank you.